Hello and welcome to our Spiritual Warfare Academy. I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what part we're on now, probably about part 6. But welcome to the remainder of our Spiritual Warfare Academy. We've got 3 more sessions left, and we're going to start moving into deliverance. Okay, so we're going to be talking about deliverance now, and one more sign of demonic oppression. So in this session, I'm going to talk about the 5. I think it's 5. Yeah, 5 signs of demonic oppression in someone's life, and then in the next 2 sessions, we're going to talk about how to get them demons out. So I hope you're ready for this. Hopefully, this is going to be really good. So biblical signs of demonic oppression in someone's lives. Okay, so I've talked about this many times in our church. I'm not sure that people really get it half the time, but it's okay. You know, really, you can look at these things and you can think to yourself, "Oh no, I do this, I do that, I must have demons." No, you haven't got demons. Most of the time, you're just a little bit broken up inside, and you need to find some ways of coping, and then your ways of coping are by default something that might look demonic. So you just stop doing it, and you're all right, innit? However, sometimes there's people that exhibit lots of different ways in which we might see the demonic starting to play a part in their lifestyle. And so when we see those things, when it's like 4 or 5 of these things, I'm starting to think, hey, actually, this might be a bit more than trauma, because we do believe in psychology as well as we believe in spiritual things. So some things are trauma. Some things are like a default position that you've been taught when you're growing up. Some things you've been taught by the demonic. You're not like demonically possessed or anything, but the demonic sometimes whispers into our ears, and then we react in ways that are demonic, and our default position is sometimes demonic, but we don't realize we're doing it, and we're not demonic in nature. We're just doing stuff that shouldn't be done. And so in the last few sessions, hopefully I've mentioned some of that stuff, and you might have been sitting there going, oh, I need to cut this out, I need to cut that out, I need to cut that out, but I'm not demon possessed. Good news, right? However, if you find someone who might be showing 4 or 5 of the signs that I'm about to go through, then I'd be sitting there going, maybe this is more than trauma. Maybe this is more than being brought up in a narcissistic household or whatever else, Maybe this is a bit more than that. Maybe this has a demonic twang to it, for want of better words. Glory. Okay, let's go through them, shall we? So, things that I've noticed in Scripture that demons do, okay? So, number 1, they isolate people, okay? In warfare, in any sort of warfare, a good strategy is to isolate people separately and then take them out one by one. So if a wolf is going after sheep, then what they'll do is they'll try to isolate one young sheep. They always go after the young, don't they? And they always go after the one, okay? So they try to run into the pack, and then they chase after the one by themselves. So in the demonic realm, what they do is they try to isolate you. So it might be that, maybe it could be a mental health thing, maybe anxiety or something like that, or depression or something. Now try to keep you isolated to yourself and stop you from connecting with community and God's community. So, and we see this in Scripture. So the demonic oppression that was at the Gerasenes community said that this man was basically isolated all by himself amongst the tombs. No one dared to go near him. And he obviously didn't want to spend any time with anyone else. In fact, they tried to chain him up over and over again, but he would break free. And he was wholeheartedly isolated from the community around him, and he was isolated from God's community. But Jesus comes in and sets him free. Isn't that good news? And then guess what happens as soon as Jesus sets him free? As soon as the 2,000 demons come running out of him, as soon as that happens, the first thing that he does is he says, I want to come follow you, Jesus, which is a good news, isn't it? The second thing that he says is, Jesus says to him, no, don't come follow me. Go into your community and tell them what's happened. Go back to community, because the way that the enemy has taken hold of you is with isolation. That's the place where it often starts, okay? Number 2, they get super strong, just like this man from the Gerasene community again. he gets super strong, superhuman strength, and he's able to break out of chains, okay? Another example of this is the sons of Sceva, 3 young lads who you might think have probably got a bit of strength about them, go to try and cast out a demon, and instead the demon strips them naked and gives them a beating, because the demons give people superhuman strength, okay? So I hear stories of people that, I heard a story about someone online who saw a lady running down the beach at a superhuman speed, like weirdly. And then another person, it would take 10 police officers to get him like under control or something. And then there's all these sorts of stories that we hear about. Now again, that by itself doesn't always mean that you've got a demon, but that amongst some other stuff might start to make us think, whoa, hang on a minute. So they're isolated, they've got superhuman strength, and then maybe they've got some of these other signs as well. But you hear of people like lifting up cars and stuff like that, and like doing crazy things that are just superhuman. There's a guy called General Butt Naked that I read about. I read his story of him becoming a Christian, and he was a warlord, like a demonic warlord in Libya, I think it was, something like that, or Liberia. And he had superhuman strength given to him by the demonic, okay? So it's interesting. We can read about this sort of stuff. We can read about it in testimonies and stuff. But that is another sign, okay? So that's 2 signs out of 5. Number 3, and this is where we get a bit weird, and I hope you forgive me because I'm going to be like a little bit open just now, and I'm going to talk about some weird stuff, okay? So not in detail. You'll be glad to know. But another sign of the demonic in someone's life is sexual weirdness, okay? So the sons of Sceva are stripped naked. The man in the Gerasene community is naked, okay? And you might go, oh, yeah, so demons make people strip naked. Well, they do, but it's more than that, okay? Because actually, like stripping naked in those days would have been like really weird, you know? Whereas in today's world, obviously running around the streets naked would be very weird. But there are other weird things that people do as well. I'm not going to lie, before I was a Christian, I once watched a movie where someone put a light bulb somewhere where it weren't meant to be. Weird, right? You know what I mean? Like, just weird. I might suggest that that's demonic. You know, sleeping with lots and lots of people is a form of self-harm. And it's weird. You know, it's not healthy. It's weird. And so some of that stuff, and I'm not saying that, you know, having lots of sexual partners is demonic, but I'm saying that if someone has lots of sexual partners and does weird stuff with them, and then if they're isolated, and if they're super strong, and if they're this, and if they're this, if they're showing all of these signs, then maybe it's a bit more than trauma. It could well be a sign of the demonic in someone's life. Okay. Number 4, you'll notice I moved on from that one pretty quick. Okay, number 4 is self-harming. Okay, again, self-harm is oftentimes just a sort of something that happens to people that are traumatized. It's a way of them like trying to control their emotions and trying to stay almost real. You know, it makes them feel real. It makes them feel normal. It makes them feel in control. But in the Bible, we see over and over again people trying to kill themselves or kill other people when they have been demonically possessed. Now, does that mean that everyone who self-harms is demonically oppressed? No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. And I hope I'm making that really clear today. What I'm saying is that if someone is self-harming and they're isolating and they're doing weird sexual stuff and they're super strong, then maybe if all of those things are happening, we might start thinking, maybe it's a bit more than natural. Maybe it's a bit more than psychological. Maybe it's demonic. Okay, number 5, and this is our final one, distraction. Okay, so over and over again you see the demonic trying to distract people from Jesus. Okay, so even the devil himself, Satan, it says that he wanted people to praise and glorify him instead of the Father. And so the Father booted him out of heaven. Okay, so the demonic wants praise. It wants us to take our eyes away from Jesus and put our eyes onto the things of the enemy. And one of the first ways that it starts to work in our lives is usually with fear. It starts with fear, and then it turns fear into control. And then once you're in control of yourself and the people around you, you start to abuse them. So we go from fear to control to abuse. And that's what happens when the demonic is oppressing us. When we are in line with the demonic, when we've made a commitment to the demonic. Maybe what happens sometimes is when we're very young, we feel like our control or our authority in our own lives has been taken away, maybe by some sort of trauma or abuse. And then what happens is there's that new small voice that comes and says, if you're really aggressive, then people won't try to hurt you anymore. And so from that point on, you become aggressive. You start to self-harm, and you start to try and harm others. You grow to become super strong. You isolate yourself, and you start to live in fear. And then you use fear to control other people. Eventually, you begin to abuse other people. That would be a demonic spirit that has spoken into your life and that you've made a contract with. Okay? So in that moment, yes, I'm going to use fear to control people so that I can have a better life. That is when we make a contract with the enemy. And there'll be times in your lives where you've maybe made a contract that needs to be broken. That's what we're going to talk about in our next session. I hope this has helped, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.